So I wanted to welcome all of but we thank you that you took the time to come out and be with us. So I wanted to give you a little history of how we got here. I did for years and years, as many of you know. I went to Washington to give a speech, and I sat next to a table next to a gentleman who was from the VA, and he said that they wanted to start veterans courts. And I knew there was a benefits appeals court, so I asked him what did he mean, and when he described it, I said, that's a mental health or drug court, but with a vet in it. I said, we have a model already, and let's help you use the same model. So a couple of us were invited to a conference with sort of the Washington bigwigs in D.C. to present the concept to them, and then we were asked to join a committee. We were asked to join a committee. Is that any better? Okay. We were asked to join a committee to put together the Veterans Justice Outreach Program, which focused on starting veterans courts and had a VJO that was connected to every single hospital center in the country. There were like 54. It was one of the fastest programs they stood up and one of the most successful. Each center now has 2 or 3 VJOs, and their veterans courts have just multiplied across the country. But when we started, as often happens, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. This group didn't know what that group was doing. Every department was doing a little bit of something with veterans. So I put together the first kind of Connect the Dots Veterans Conference. And there's some people here that were actually at that event way, way back then. And we had the Department of Veteran Services, and we had Veterans Courts, and we had everybody that had any program at the pretty state court, the state level, the county level, and the court level, talk a little bit about what they did. And that was the first of 4 that I put on while I was on the Supreme Court. And then I decided I'd read 6 Feet of Briefs for 16 years, and that was just more than I could handle, and I was ready to step down and do this stuff sort of more full-time. As I tell people, I did not retire, I changed careers. And so I stepped down, and someone else stepped up. Justice Kennedy, she and I met early on when she was trying to decide to go for the court, and I said, do it. We need trial judges, and she at that time was a domestic juvenile judge, and she really had an experience for most people to touch the court system in that department than almost any other. But then I started talking about veterans courts after she was on the bench. She was a former police officer, and by golly, she got the fever, and she has left me in the dust. And I mean that very sincerely, because she has visited so many counties and talked to judges locally in those counties about veterans courts. She's talked to all sorts of agencies and individuals and programs. You name it, she has been out there promoting veterans courts, and she's going to talk about a new project with the AG that I'm really, really excited about. And so she did a conference then with the Ohio State Bar Association aimed at judges who wanted to start veterans courts. We had 54 attend who had not done a court yet. And then she said to me, we should do another statewide court conference like you did. So we did our first one. We filled up a month before it was out. It was to start. We had 250 attend. Fortunately, some people drop off and can't make it, and some people show up that didn't register, so it evened out. We had 10 generals even come. And then that was focused a lot on veterans courts. The second one was focused on the trauma of war and all the responses to it, but we had to switch to virtual. I think some of you were able to participate in that one by virtual. And then this one is back to the original concept, Connect the Dots. We have so many groups doing so many wonderful things that we thought, you should learn about all of them. So you have a robust program ahead of you that will hopefully give you a lot of education and resources to connect with. I want to give a special thanks to the Attorney General. He has been a funder for this for 3 times, and the Ohio State Bar Foundation. And without their funding, we couldn't really put this conference on without charging, and we do not want to charge for this, so we're really grateful for that. And we really had a very hard-working committee that put this program together. Melissa Knopp, who's with me on Stepping Up, my program manager. She had a medical issue, couldn't be here today, but she was on the committee. Danny Eakins with the Department of Veteran Services was huge in helping us get people. Judge Jackson, who's a retired judge, he would be here personally, but he's compromised, so he can't really go out in public. Joseph Schwati from the excuse me, I'm drawing a blank. Ohio National Guard, thank you. Ohio National Guard, longtime partner. Tammy Puff from the governor's office was very involved. And then James Connelly with the VA, who was involved in my very first one of the first people I worked with in Ohio. And of course, Justice Kennedy with all of her leadership, bringing all the parties together. And last but not least, but most crucially essential, Alicia Guthrie, who's still sitting up there taking in. She helped put it all together. And then we wanted to give a Mighty Crow shout out to them because they've helped organize, do the websites, get the registrations, and run all the slideshows. So I wanted to thank all of them for making this happen. So thank you all. And with that, I will turn it over to Justice Kennedy, who is the super champion for veterans issues.